My name is Raymond, but most people call me Ray. I'm 72 years old, and on what was supposed to be a night of celebration, New Year's Eve, with fireworks lighting the sky outside my own home, everything quietly shifted beneath my feet. I remember the countdown playing on the television, glasses clinking, smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Then my daughter-in-law stood up, cleared her throat, and said something she clearly believed had already been decided. She called it my next chapter. In just a few calm sentences, she explained where I'd be living soon, how it would be easier for everyone, and why no one had thought to ask me first. In that moment, I realized something painful, but important. This wasn't about care, it was about control. I'm going to tell you what they planned for me that night, why they thought I was too old to push back, and how the new year didn't unfold the way any of them expected. But before I begin, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from tonight? I read every comment. To those of you who've been here before, thank you. Your support reminds me I'm not alone. And if this is your first time listening, please consider liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. You're not just joining a channel. You're joining a place where stories like mine are finally told. Now, let me tell you what really happened that New Year's Eve. The house smelled like the pot roast I'd made that morning. I'd been cooking in this kitchen for 43 years, since the week after my wife, Clara, and I moved in. We picked out every cabinet together. She'd wanted the blue tiles. I'd installed them myself, one weekend in July while she was 7 months pregnant with our son. That son, Holden, was sitting across from me now at the dining table, and he wouldn't look me in the eye. His wife, Imogen, sat beside him, perfectly postured, hair pulled back tight. She had that look on her face, the one she gets when she's about to say something she's rehearsed. It was 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes until the new year. The television was on in the living room, some news anchor talking about celebrations in Times Square. I'd opened a bottle of champagne earlier, the good stuff, the kind Clara and I used to save for anniversaries. It sat untouched on the counter, condensation pooling around the base. "Ray," Imogen said, folding her hands on the table, "we need to talk about something important." I set down my coffee. "All right." She slid a folder across the table. Glossy, professional, the kind of folder you get from a real estate agent or a funeral home. I didn't touch it. "Holden and I have been talking," she continued, her voice warm and measured like she was explaining something to a child. "And we think it's time we discuss your living situation." My living situation. I glanced at Holden. He was staring at his hands. "We've been noticing some things," Imogen said. She opened the folder for me, revealing brochures, smiling elderly people playing cards, a manicured lawn, large text that read, "Meadowbrook Senior Living Community, where every day feels like home." "Things?" I repeated. "You've been forgetting things, Ray. Small things at first, but—" She exchanged a look with Holden. "Last week, you left the stove on. The smoke alarm went off. You could have hurt yourself." I felt my jaw tighten. I didn't leave the stove on. I know I didn't. But before I could say anything, Imogen continued. "And this house, it's too much for you now. The stairs, the yard work, the upkeep. You're 72. You deserve to relax, to be somewhere where people can take care of you." She tapped the brochure with one manicured finger. "Meadowbrook is beautiful. We toured it last month. Private rooms, chef-prepared meals, activities every day. They even have a library." "Last month. They toured it last month." "You toured it," I said slowly, without telling me. Holden finally spoke. "Dad, we just wanted to see what was available. We didn't want to worry you until we had options." "Options?" I echoed. Imogen smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "We've already put down a deposit. Your move-in date is January 15th. 2 weeks. That gives us time to help you pack, sort through things. Holden and I will take care of everything." I sat there looking at the two of them. My son. the boy I taught to ride a bike, the man I helped put through college, and his wife, who'd been circling this house like a hawk since the day they got married. "And what happens to this place?" I asked quietly. "We'll take care of it," Imogen said quickly. "Maintain it. You won't have to worry about... You'll move in." Silence. Holden shifted in his seat. "Dad, it's not like that." But it was exactly like that. I could see it in Imogen's eyes. She'd already measured the rooms, already planned where her furniture would go. On the television, the countdown had started. 10, 9, 8. Imogen reached across the table and patted my hand. "Ray, this is for the best. Trust us." 7, 6, 5. I looked at her hand on mine. 4, 3, 2, and I smiled. "All right," I said. She blinked, surprised at how easy it was. Holden exhaled, relief flooding his face. The fireworks started outside, bright bursts of gold and red lighting up the windows. "Happy New Year," Imogen said, raising her glass. I raised mine too, but what they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that I'd been preparing for this moment for months. 3 phone calls. That's all it took to set everything in motion. 1 to a forensic accountant named Kira, 1 to a private investigator named Quentin, and 1 to a lawyer who specialized in elder fraud. Because 6 months ago, my granddaughter Jolie came to me crying, and she told me something that changed everything. Imogen smiled at me across the table, triumphant. I smiled back. Let her think she'd won. I didn't sleep that night. While Holden and Imogen toasted the new year in my living room, already acting like it was theirs, I sat in my office with the door closed. The room was small, dark wood paneling. A desk Clara bought me for my 50th birthday. Pictures on the wall, our wedding day, Holden as a baby, Jolie's high school graduation last spring. And on my desk, 3 manila folders. 6 months ago, Jolie showed up at my door unannounced on a Tuesday afternoon. She was supposed to be at school, but her eyes were red and swollen. "Grandpa Ray," she'd said, voice shaking, "I need to tell you something." We sat in the same office, and she told me that her college fund was disappearing. Jolie's mother, Holden's first wife, had set up that fund before she passed away from cancer 8 years ago. $20,000. Untouchable, legally protected for Jolie's education. Except it wasn't untouchable anymore. Dad gave Imogen access to manage it, Jolie explained, wiping her eyes. He said she was better with money. But Grandpa, I checked the balance last week. There's only $11,000 left. $9,000. Gone. "Are you sure?" I asked carefully. She showed me her phone. Bank statements, transfers labeled education expenses and textbooks and school supplies. But Jolie had receipts for everything she'd actually spent. It didn't add up. I confronted her, Jolie whispered. She said I was confused, that I didn't understand how investments work. She made me feel stupid, Grandpa. But I'm not stupid. No, she wasn't. I told Jolie I'd look into it. I told her not to say anything to Holden yet. And then I made the first phone call. Kira Chen, forensic accountant. We'd worked together years ago when I was still practicing. She owed me a favor, and she was the best. "Ray," she'd said when I explained the situation, "if she's stealing from a minor's protected fund, that's not just unethical. It's criminal. I need proof. Give me 2 weeks." It took her 10 days. Kira found everything. The transfers from Jolie's fund into accounts that had nothing to do with education. Money moved into an account under the name of Imogen's sister, Nyla, who, as it turned out, was just a name on paper. Nyla didn't control the account. Imogen did, but that wasn't all. "Ray," Kira said during our follow-up call, "I need to tell you something else. She's been accessing your accounts too." My blood went cold. 2 years ago, Holden convinced me to give Imogen power of attorney. "Just in case something happens, Dad," he'd said, "so someone can handle your bills, your medical decisions." It seemed reasonable at the time, except Imogen had been using that access to move my money. Small amounts at first, $300 here, $500 there, amounts I wouldn't notice immediately. She'd labeled them household expenses and medical payments. Over 18 months, she'd taken $42,000. From me, from Jolie, and she'd done it so carefully, so incrementally that if I hadn't been looking, I never would have known. "What do you want to do?" Kira asked. "I need more," I said. "I need to know everything." That's when I called Quentin. Quentin Marsh, former police detective, now a private investigator. He specialized in fraud cases, infidelity, financial crimes. I met him at a diner, showed him what Kira had found, and asked a simple question. What else is she hiding? He called me 3 weeks later. "Ray, you're going to want to sit down for this." Imogen was having an affair with my neighbor, Zane. Zane, who'd lived 2 doors down for 5 years, who'd helped me clean my gutters last fall, who waved every morning when I got the mail. Quentin showed me the photos. Imogen and Zane at a hotel 30 miles outside town. Text messages pulled from cloud backups, messages where they talked about the plan. "Once he's in Meadowbrook, we can move forward. The house will sell for at least $450K. Split it down the middle? His son won't fight us. He doesn't have the spine. They'd been planning this for over a year. Get me out, move in, sell the house, disappear with the money." Zane's mother actually did live at Meadowbrook. That's how Imogen knew about it. That's how she'd planned every detail. I sat in my office now, New Year's Day, staring at the evidence spread across my desk. Bank statements, forged signatures, photos, text messages. Kira had told me it was enough for criminal charges. Quentin said the district attorney would take the case in a heartbeat. But I wasn't ready to move yet, because I wanted Imogen to believe she'd won. I wanted her to think I was too old, too confused, too powerless to stop her. I wanted her to walk into the trap herself. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Jolie. "Grandpa, are you okay? I saw them leave. Call me when you can." I texted back, "I'm fine, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay. Trust me." I looked at the calendar on my wall. January 15th. 2 weeks. Let them think they had 2 weeks. I'd already packed my bags. I'd already contacted Meadowbrook and paid for a month. But I wasn't staying there. I had other plans. And by the time Imogen realized what was happening, it would be far too late. January 15th arrived on a gray, cold morning. I stood in my bedroom, the room I'd shared with Clara for 37 years, and looked at the suitcases on the bed. Holden was downstairs loading boxes into his truck. I could hear him moving through the house, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood floors Clara and I had refinished together one summer. Imogen supervised from the kitchen, her voice drifting up the stairs. "Be careful with that one, honey. That's fragile." My things. She was calling my things fragile. I zipped the last suitcase and took one final look around the room. The morning light came through the window the same way it had for 4 decades. Clara used to stand right there brushing her hair before work. "You ready, Dad?" Holden appeared in the doorway, trying to smile. "As I'll ever be," I said quietly. He looked like he wanted to say something, maybe apologize, maybe explain. But Imogen called from downstairs, and the moment passed. I played the part perfectly. The defeated old man, shoulders slumped, moving slowly. I even pretended to forget where I'd put my glasses, just to sell it. Imogen watched me with poorly concealed satisfaction. On the drive to Meadowbrook, Holden tried to make conversation. "They have activities every day, Dad. Movie nights, bingo, even a woodworking shop." "That sounds nice," I said, staring out the window. What he didn't know was that I'd already toured Meadowbrook myself 3 weeks ago. I'd met with the director, paid for a month in advance, and explained that I'd be checking in but wouldn't be staying long. "Family situation," I'd told her. "I just need a temporary place while some things get sorted out." She'd understood. She'd seen situations like mine before. Meadowbrook was actually a decent place. Clean, well-staffed, dignified. The residents weren't warehoused. They were cared for. If I genuinely needed assisted living someday, I could do worse. But that day wasn't today. Holden helped me check in. A woman named Patricia showed us to my room, small but comfortable with a window overlooking the garden. "I'll leave you to get settled," Patricia said warmly. "Lunch is at noon in the dining hall. If you need anything, just press the call button." Holden lingered awkwardly. "Dad, It's fine, son," I said, sitting on the bed. "You should get back. I'm sure Imogen needs help with everything." Guilt flickered across his face. He hugged me, quick and uncomfortable, and left. I waited until I heard his truck pull away. Then I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Jolie, I'm in. You can come by after school like we planned." "Okay, Grandpa," she whispered. "I've got it." 3 days later, January 18th, Jolie arrived at 3:30 p.m. with her backpack and something precious hidden inside: Imogen's laptop. We sat in the common area, a quiet corner where no one paid attention to a grandfather and his granddaughter doing homework. "She left it open in the kitchen," Jolie whispered. "I cloned the hard drive exactly like you showed me." I taught Jolie basic computer skills when she was 12. She was smart, careful, and she understood what was at stake. The cloned drive had everything: emails between Imogen and Zane dating back 14 months, detailed plans about the house, what renovations they'd make before selling, how they'd split the profit, spreadsheets showing my assets, my accounts, projected timelines. There was even a draft real estate listing for my house, already written, with professional photos they'd taken when I wasn't home. Charming, 3-bedroom craftsman in established neighborhood. Original hardwood floors, updated kitchen, large backyard, perfect for families. My home, described like a commodity. But the worst part, the part that made my hands shake, was an email Imogen had sent to Zane 2 weeks ago. Holden's starting to ask questions about the money. I told him his dad needed it for medical expenses. He believed me. He always believes me. Once Ray's at Meadowbrook, we'll have full access to everything. The old man won't even know what hit him. The old man. I saved everything to an encrypted drive. That evening, I met with someone new, a woman named Margaret who lived down the hall. We'd started talking over breakfast my second day there. She was sharp, funny, and we'd bonded over terrible coffee and better conversation. What I didn't know at first was that Margaret used to be a judge, 30 years on the bench before retiring. I showed her the evidence over tea in her room. She read through it carefully, her reading glasses perched on her nose, taking her time. Finally, she looked up. "Raymond," she said, "you don't just have a case. You have a masterpiece. This is elder financial abuse, fraud, embezzlement from a minor's account, and conspiracy. Any prosecutor would take this in a heartbeat." "I have a lawyer," I said. "I'm ready to file." "Then why haven't you?" I was quiet for a moment. "Because I need my son to see the truth himself. If I just hit them with lawsuits, Holden will think I'm a vindictive old man. Imogen will twist it, make herself the victim. I need him to see who she really is." Margaret nodded slowly. "So you're giving him the evidence directly?" "Tomorrow." She smiled. "You're a good father, Raymond. Even now." That night, I called Holden. "Son, can you come see me tomorrow evening? I need to talk to you about something important." He sounded relieved. "Of course, Dad. Is everything okay?" "Just come around 6, I said. "Come alone." The next day felt endless. I had the breakfast with Margaret. We played chess in the common room. She beat me twice. I had lunch with some of the other residents, listened to their stories, laughed at their jokes, but my mind was somewhere else. At 5:45 p.m., I sat in my room with a folder on the table. Inside was everything: the bank statements Kira had compiled, the photos Quentin had taken, printouts of the emails from Imogen's laptop, a timeline showing every theft, every transfer, every lie. At 6:03 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Holden stood there looking uncertain. "Hey, Dad." "Come in, son. Sit down." He sat in the chair across from me. I could see he was nervous. Probably thought I was going to complain about Meadowbrook or ask to come home. I slid the folder across the table. I need you to look at something. He opened it. I watched his face as he read. Watched the confusion turn to disbelief. Watched the disbelief turn to horror. Dad, what is this? It's the truth, Holden. About your wife, about what she's been doing. He flipped through the pages. The bank statements showing the stolen money. The photos of Imogen and Zane at the hotel. The emails planning to sell my house. His hands started shaking. This can't be real. It's real, son. Every word. He stared at the photo of Imogen and Zane. His face went pale. How long have you known? 6 months, since Jolie came to me crying because her college fund was disappearing. He looked up sharply. Jolie's fund. I showed him those statements too. Showed him how Imogen had stolen $9,000 from his daughter's future, money his late wife had set aside before she died. Holden put his head in his hands. And my son, my 42-year-old son, cried, "Stop, right here. Before I tell you what Holden did next, before I reveal how he confronted Imogen, I need to know you're still with me. Hit that like button if your heart is breaking for Ray and Holden right now. Subscribe if you need to see what happens when Imogen's perfect plan falls apart. And comment Team Ray if you think justice is coming. Next is where everything explodes, where Holden has to choose between his wife and his family, where Ray finally makes his move. Don't you dare miss it. Subscribe now. Holden sat in that chair for 20 minutes, just staring at the evidence. I didn't say anything. I let him process it, let him see his marriage, his life, his choices laid out in black and white. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Why didn't you tell me sooner? It was the question I'd been expecting. Would you have believed me? I asked gently. 6 months ago, if I told you Imogen was stealing from me, from Jolie, would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was confused? A paranoid old man imagining things? He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, because he knew the answer. She's been painting you that way for months, son. The forgetfulness. The stove incident that never happened. She needed everyone to think I was losing it, so when she moved me here, no one would question it. Holden's jaw clenched. The stove. She told me you left it on. She showed me. He stopped. She could have turned it on herself. Yes. He looked at the photo of Imogen and Zane again, and something broke in his eyes. Not just heartbreak. Something harder, clearer. What do you need me to do? He asked. I need you to go home. Act normal. Don't tell her you know. Not yet. Can you do that? Why? Because I'm not done yet. He stared at me. Dad, what are you planning? I leaned forward. Tomorrow morning, I'm checking out of Meadowbrook. I've already found an apartment downtown, close to Jolie's school, actually. She can stay with me while this gets sorted out. You're leaving? I was never staying, Holden. This was always temporary. But Imogen needed to believe she'd won. And now, I'm going to file every lawsuit my lawyer's been preparing. Civil fraud, embezzlement, elder abuse. The police will get involved because the amount she stole crossed the felony threshold. Holden's eyes widened. Prison? That's up to the prosecutor. But son, you need to file for divorce, immediately, before she tries to take anything else. He nodded slowly, still in shock. I'm sorry, he whispered. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have protected you, protected Jolie. You were manipulated by someone you loved, I said quietly. That's not a character flaw. That's human. He wiped his eyes. Can I tell Jolie? She needs to know you're okay. She already knows. She's been helping me. A flicker of surprise, then pride crossed his face. She has? She's stronger than either of us gave her credit for. Holden left an hour later, carrying copies of everything. He looked 10 years older than when he'd walked in. The next morning, January 20th, I checked out of Meadowbrook. Margaret helped me load my car, a woman in her 70s hauling suitcases while I pretended my back hurt. "You sure you don't want to stay for book club tonight?" she teased. "Rain check," I said, "but thank you for everything." Go get your life back, Raymond. My new apartment was on the 4th floor of a modern building downtown. 1 bedroom, large windows, an actual view of the city. The building had an elevator, a gym, a community room where residents played cards on Thursdays. It was perfect. I spent the morning unpacking, hung Clara's picture on the wall, set up my chess set on the coffee table. At 1 p.m., my phone rang. "Ray, it's Kira. You ready?" "File everything. You got it." By 3 p.m., the lawsuits hit. Civil fraud charges filed in county court. Criminal complaints submitted to the district attorney's office. Imogen's bank accounts frozen. Quentin personally served her with papers at my old house. I wasn't there, but Quentin told me about it later. "She answered the door in yoga pants," he said, drinking coffee like she didn't have a care in the world. When I handed her the papers and told her she was being sued for elder financial abuse and embezzlement, her face went white. She actually said, "This is a mistake." I told her the police would probably be in touch. She slammed the door in my face. By 5 p.m., the police had indeed made contact. A detective named Morrison called me to get my statement. "Mr. Raymond, I've reviewed the evidence your accountant submitted. This is one of the most clear-cut cases of elder financial abuse I've seen. We'll be pursuing charges." "Thank you," I said. That evening, Holden called me. "I filed for divorce this afternoon," he said, his voice steady now. "Jolie's with me. We're staying at a hotel tonight. I couldn't be in that house." "That's good, son." "Dad, she called me 17 times, left a dozen voicemails. She's saying it's all a misunderstanding, that you're confused, that she can explain." "Are you going to talk to her?" "No." His voice was firm. "My lawyer said not to. And honestly, I don't think I could look at her without. I trusted her with everything. With you. With Jolie." "I know." "I keep thinking about Mom," he said quietly. "What she'd say about all this, about me being so blind. Your mother would say you loved someone, and that's never something to be ashamed of. Being wrong about who they were, that's on them, not you." He was quiet for a moment. "Can Jolie and I come see your new place tomorrow?" "I'd like that." We hung up. I stood at the window of my apartment, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Imogen was realizing that the confused old man she'd underestimated had outplayed her completely. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Please, I need to talk to you. Just give me a chance to explain." Imogen. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. But 3 days later, something happened that I didn't expect. Something that changed everything. Because on January 23rd, Imogen showed up at my apartment. And what she told me, what she begged me to understand, made me question everything I thought I knew about revenge, justice, and mercy. February 2nd, 10 days after the lawsuits hit. I was making coffee in my new apartment when someone knocked on my door. It was 7 a.m. Holden and Jolie weren't supposed to visit until that evening. I looked through the peephole. Imogen. She looked nothing like the woman who'd sat in my kitchen on New Year's Eve, calmly explaining my next chapter. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, dark circles under red, swollen eyes. She wore an oversized sweatshirt and jeans that looked slept in. She knocked again, softer this time. "Ray, please. I know you're in there. I just need 5 minutes." Every instinct told me to walk away, to let her stand there, to let justice run its course. But something in her voice, something broken, made me open the door. She looked up at me, and I saw a woman who'd lost everything. "Thank you," she whispered. I didn't invite her in. I stood in the doorway, blocking her path. What do you want, Imogen? I need to tell you the truth. Not the version my lawyer wants me to say. Not excuses. Just the truth. You've got 3 minutes. She nodded, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. I grew up in a trailer park outside of Louisville. My dad was an alcoholic who couldn't keep a job. My mom worked 2 shifts at a diner just to keep the lights on. When I was 12, we got evicted. We lived in our car for 6 weeks. Me, my mom, and my little sister Nyla. I said nothing. I remember being so cold at night, so hungry, going to school and pretending everything was fine while my stomach hurt and my clothes smelled because we couldn't do laundry. I promised myself I'd never be that powerless again, never be that poor, never watch my family suffer like that. Her voice cracked. When I met Holden, I saw safety, security, and when I saw your house, your accounts, I saw a future where I'd never have to be afraid again. So I took it. I took what wasn't mine because I was terrified, and I told myself it was justified. You stole from a child, I said quietly. From Jolie, your stepdaughter, a girl whose mother died and left her that money because she wanted her daughter to have opportunities she never had. Imogen's face crumpled. I know. God, Ray, I know. I became exactly what I was afraid of. Someone who takes from others. Someone who hurts people to feel safe. And Zane. She closed her eyes. Zane made me feel powerful. Like I was in control of something. It was wrong. All of it was wrong. But I kept telling myself it was okay because I'd earned it. Because I'd suffered. Because... She stopped. There's no because. There's no excuse. I watched her cry. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. She tried to erase me, to warehouse me away like I was disposable. But all I felt was tired. Holden filed for divorce, she said. The police are investigating. My lawyer says I'm looking at felony charges. I'll probably lose my job, my apartment, everything. Yes. She looked up at me, mascara-stained tears on her cheeks. I'm not asking you to drop the charges. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I needed you to know that I see what I did, that I'm not going to run from it anymore. We stood there in the doorway, the morning light harsh and honest between us. What do you want from me, Imogen? Tell me what I can do to make this right, even if it takes the rest of my life. I thought about Clara, about the woman I'd loved for 37 years, who'd taught me that mercy wasn't weakness. It was the hardest kind of strength. I thought about Holden, learning to trust again after betrayal. I thought about Jolie, watching how the adults in her life handled justice. You're going to pay back every cent, I said. It'll take years, but you'll do it. You're going to get real therapy, not because a court orders it, but because you need to understand why you hurt people. You're going to write Jolie an apology she can read when she's ready. And you're going to plead guilty, take whatever sentence comes, and serve it with dignity. She nodded, unable to speak. And if you do all that, if you actually do the work of becoming someone different, I'll testify at your sentencing. I'll tell the judge you're getting help. I'll ask for leniency. It might mean probation instead of prison. Her eyes widened. Why would you do that? Because someone gave me a second chance once, when I didn't deserve it, and because revenge isn't the same as justice. She stared at me like I was speaking another language. I don't expect us to be friends, I continued. I don't even expect you to succeed. But I believe people can change if they want to badly enough. The question is, do you want to? Yes, she whispered. I swear to you, yes. Then prove it. I closed the door. I stood there for a moment, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Then I poured my coffee and called Holden. Son, Imogen just came to see me. What? Dad, are you okay? What did she... I'm fine, but I need to tell you what I'm planning to do. May 2025. 4 months later. Imogen pleaded guilty to all charges. Elder financial abuse, embezzlement, fraud. Her lawyer tried to negotiate, but she refused any deals that involved lying or minimizing what she'd done. The sentencing hearing was on a Tuesday morning. I sat in the courtroom with Holden and Jolie. Margaret came, too. She'd become a dear friend over the past months. The judge, a stern woman named Calloway, reviewed the case file with the kind of gravity it deserved. The prosecutor laid out the facts: the stolen money, the manipulation, the affair, the plan to institutionalize me and sell my home. Then it was my turn to speak. I walked to the witness stand, and every eye in that courtroom was on me. Your Honor, Imogen Hartley committed terrible crimes against me and my granddaughter. She violated our trust, stole our security, and attempted to erase my autonomy as a human being. Imogen sat at the defense table, head bowed. But I stand here today to tell you that she has taken full responsibility. She has entered therapy. She has begun repaying the stolen funds, small amounts but consistent. She has written letters of apology that demonstrate genuine remorse. Judge Calloway leaned forward. Mr. Raymond, are you asking this court for leniency? I'm asking this court to give her a chance to rebuild her life in a way that serves justice. Probation with strict conditions, community service, continued restitution. Let her prove she can change. The judge studied me for a long moment. Then she delivered the sentence: 3 years probation, 500 hours of community service at a housing nonprofit, mandatory therapy, and full restitution to be paid over 10 years. Imogen would have a criminal record. She would lose her nursing license, but she wouldn't go to prison. As we left the courtroom, she approached me. Thank you, she said quietly. I won't waste this. I know, I said, and surprisingly, I meant it. Now, sitting in my apartment on a Sunday evening in late May, I can tell you how the story ends. Jolie lives with me now. Holden has her on weekends, but she chose to stay here during the week, closer to her school, closer to her friends. We cook dinner together every night. She's teaching me how to use TikTok. I'm teaching her to play chess. She beats me more often than not these days. Holden is healing, slowly. He's in therapy, working through the guilt of not seeing Imogen's manipulation sooner. We have dinner every Sunday. Tonight, actually, he's bringing someone. A woman named Sarah he met at a grief support group. He's taking it slow, learning to trust again. My apartment is full of light and laughter. I've made friends in the building, other people in their 60s and 70s who refuse to be invisible. We have game nights, book clubs. There's a woman named Helen on the 5th floor who makes me laugh in ways I haven't since Clara died. Imogen sends checks every month, never late. She's working 2 jobs now, one at a call center, one doing bookkeeping remotely. She volunteers at the housing nonprofit every Saturday, helping families avoid foreclosure. Her therapist says she's doing real work, confronting the trauma that made her believe security could only come from taking. I don't know if we'll ever be friendly, but I'm not carrying hate anymore. Last week, I went back to my old house. Holden decided to keep it, to fill it with better memories. We stood in the kitchen, the one with Clara's blue tiles, and he put his arm around me. Dad, I'm proud of you. For everything. I'm proud of you too, son. Tonight, as I set the table for Sunday dinner, I think about New Year's Eve, about Imogen's announcement, about how she thought she was writing my final chapter. But here's what I learned. No one gets to write your story but you. Not a daughter-in-law who saw you as disposable. Not a system that treats age as obsolescence. Not anyone. Jolie walks in, laughing at something on her phone. Grandpa Ray, you have to see this video. Holden arrives with Sarah, carrying wine and flowers. We gather around the table in my small apartment, and it's not the house I built 43 years ago, but it's full of the same thing that mattered then. Family. The doorbell rings one more time. It's Margaret and Helen joining us for dinner. We raise our glasses. To new chapters, Holden says. To family, Jolie adds. To writing our own stories, I say. And that, I've learned, is the best revenge of all, refusing to let anyone else hold the pen. Living, thriving, loving. That's victory. That's Ray's story. A 72-year-old man who refused to be erased, who fought back with dignity, and who chose mercy when revenge would have been easier. If this story moved you, if you see yourself or someone you love in these chapters, I need you to do 3 things right now. 1. Subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Real people, real struggles, real resilience. 2. Like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who's been underestimated. Maybe someone facing their own battle. 3. Comment below and tell me, what did Ray's story teach you about dignity, justice, or second chances? Your words matter. This community matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing Ray's story. I'll see you in the next one. And trust me, you won't want to miss it.